Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So far, we have spoken about robotics, cobotics, AI, UVC, and smart washrooms. Now it's time to talk about the technology that has transformed the way facility owners and managers make decisions. It's time to talk about IoT. Before we get started, let's meet our panelists here. Joining us today is Mr. Salim Ali Hamad Al Harthi. He's the General Manager of Oman Airports. Mr. Bhimrao Doble, Head of Soft Service at Aster DM Healthcare. Mr. Habib Ahmed, CEO of Isad Services, Saudi Arabia. Mr. Julian Khalil, Senior Director for Safety and Soft Services, Farnec. And Mr. Lav Agarwal, CEO of Smart Clean, joining us all the way from Singapore. A hearty welcome to all the panelists. We appreciate you being here today. A quick reminder for the audience before we get started. If you have any questions, please type them into the question box on your panel and I'll bring them up during the session. So let us begin. My first question, it's open for all the panel members, is how does IoT work for commercial cleaning? Julian, would you take this question first?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me. Well, I think, to answer it in the simplest way, IoT for commercial cleaning works the same way how it does for other industries. In the end, it connects devices, people, and different objects in the network and enables a much easier way of data exchange and communication, which then again leads to a complete new view of how the operations can be run. And I think this is the main aspect that we're living with that in a much more connected and faster world. Suddenly the building will tell us itself when it requires a cleaning, and with that it changes more the aspect from current, I would say, planned activities which we follow in cleaning, like normal planned PPMs and all that, to an on-demand service, because the facility is in the room or the washroom will tell us itself when it requires the cleaning, depending on the data. And obviously, this is all connected through sensors, devices, and softwares, from the smart washrooms. As you had already a discussion before, we are testing this and implemented it also in several projects quite successfully, and that's definitely, I think, the way to go for the future in cleaning.
Thank you so much, Julian. Mr. Bhimrao, would you like to add to this? From a facility point of view, we've recently seen that Aster and Farnec together have implemented an IoT solution for Aster DM Healthcare. So tell us about it. How does it work for you?
Well, we are very thankful that Farnec have introduced this technology in our premises, and I'm very proud to say that within 24 pharmacies and 5 clinics, we have been using this technology, and it's helping us in a lot. It helps us monitor our footfalls. We have been able to monitor people. The people walks in, we get to know the temperature. There are many advantages of this technology, which is like Julian mentioned, like apart from what they have installed in our facilities, I have been exploring many options for washrooms as well. We're looking for a dispensers which is comes with the sensors which help us get the notification as we run out of our consumables. Not only that, we are also exploring dustbins which get alert as and when it's getting overflow. So we are working on those. But yes, with the help of Farnec, we are able to monitor our consumables. We are able to get the footfalls on a daily basis, and apart from that, we are also monitoring our CCTVs and energy conservations.
Thank you so much for sharing that information, Mr. Bhimrao. Lav, would you like to take this question? How does IoT work for commercial cleaning?
Sure. I mean, in addition to what Mr. Bhimrao and Julian have mentioned, basically at the core of everything, it's the sensors which are monitoring different aspects of cleanliness, right? So ranging from smell monitoring, air quality monitoring to, let's say, dispenser monitoring or bin monitoring. All of this collected data actually transitions the way cleaning is done, right? In the sense that moving away from scheduled cleaning, periodic monitoring on a roster-based cleaning, more to a data-driven on-demand model as well. Aside from that, the collected data is also being used for optimizing processes, creating SLAs, etc. For example, in some of our projects, we are seeing that facility management companies are using the collected data to ensure and create SLAs that are the cleaning tasks that are triggered or the work orders that are triggered being resolved or not. Also to assess the quality of cleaning or let's say the quality of outcome that has been delivered for the end user experience, etc. as well. Yep.
Thank you so much, Love. Mr. Habib, would you like to add to this?
Well, I mean, as I think most of the points are covered, but the main point that I would like to cover is the SLAs and KPIs, on a periodic basis, they get improved when we mobilize large projects, especially commercial or the projects like airport, financial districts and all. So while signing any large project from the RFP awarding approach, there are the reviews that when we get into the technology, we get the input output based approach to improve the consumptions, even the improving of manpower that were initially mobilized. The technology supports us to measure and then improve the next phase of complete mobilization, where end of the year or cycle of the contract, we get improvement in cost, quality, data that can help the client as well to improve their, let's say, budget-wise next year or next contract awarding. So the information becomes more digital, where we can measure and then do our cost optimization when it's supported by the technology.
Thank you for this interesting piece of information, Mr. Habib. Mr. Salim, now coming to you, you will have a very unique perspective to add to this because you manage an entire airport. So how does IoT work for a facility like an airport?
Actually, this is a very exciting time for us, and especially with this pandemic is coming, and the IoT data gathering and using of sensors. We started actually from last year before the pandemic. We started using some like sensor for the toilet, and we see a number of people going and coming, and then see the frequency of using the toilets. And then we ask the service provider to mobilize the right staff and the right people. So we are using data now. Actually, some of it is it's catered for cleaning facility, but other data used for usually like flow management, something we call crowd vision things. So based on the crowd data getting from the crowd, we can mobilize the right staff, right people to go and do the right cleaning. So the data-driven technology, it's very helpful for us, and especially the pandemic hit us very bad in terms of number of passengers coming. So now we cannot just clean the whole airport. So we clean based on the number of passengers available by utilizing data, which is like a sensor in the toilets, flow management on the walkways, and let's say passenger flow, let's say duty free or the gates. So we started to use it, and in the future we'll be actually use it even more to, as guest mentioned, some of the colleagues mentioned about the budget estimation, KPI improvement, SLA, SOPs. So all this will help us. So based on data, it will be better to plan everything on data than just by generic something we know. So data, I'm sure we start using it, and I'm sure it's going to use it even more in the future. So that's actually what we're going to do. This.
Thank you so much for sharing. My next question, Julian, perhaps you can take it first. What are the application areas of IoT, as in which facilities can make the best use of this technology?
Well, I think a lot has been said already. Just Salem obviously described a bit more the application specifically for an airport. And I think, it's not so facility depending. I think, for example, measuring the footfall provides valuable data for any kind of facility. Is it an airport, as you mentioned, to look at the crowd management and rearrange your resources? Or, for example, for a commercial tower, understanding what is the footfall on each and every floor in terms of space management? Yeah, especially also towards energy management and understanding that maybe certain areas and the facilities are not as much used. Getting a bit an overview of the time frame and you know how the flow of the guests and the people is during a day, during a week, seasonal. So there's a lot of obviously data which can help managing towards that. Otherwise, and I think specifically more for the cleaning industry, it's then to utilize this data and see how does it impact our processes. Yeah? For example, reactive cleaning. Yeah, it is before that somebody must have seen something in order for the cleaner or the cleaner themselves to do it. But now with the data, we come more into the idea of a predictive cleaning. Yeah? If we know that at a specific time in a day, a specific area is very busy and very crowded, we through AI and all the machine learning, the software these days can schedule almost and predict, you know, where the next area has to be cleaned. And I think beside that, obviously, the entire robotics and machines, cleaners will be able, or supervisors, to manage now several devices or several machines and stuff more remotely. So with the entire IoT, I think that the supervisor management becomes more remote management. Actually, it's the facilities. The washroom says already what's the situation. Yeah? The supervisor does not have to take the step anymore and go there. Time and attendance is definitely something. With smartwatches, we have implemented GPS tracking. We know when people arrive in a facility, where they are, and are also able with this technology to allocate them at the right spot at the right time, always the nearest cleaner. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Julian. Love, would you like to add to this? What are the application areas of IoT as per your experience?
Sure. I mean, elaborating on what Julian mentioned earlier, there are, of course, I mean, no limitations on the type of facilities that deployments could be done. In fact, we ourselves have deployed in projects ranging from all the way from airports, shopping malls, office buildings, even public locations like bus interchanges or metro interchanges, etc. as well. So towards that, different sensing applications could be useful for different locations. For example, smart washroom is one of the more commercialized one, but then, for example, litter monitoring, footfall based analytics. So more of transition to on-demand cleaning data and let's say analytics on where cleaning needs to happen. So again, I mean, the building from the data telling us where the cleaning needs to happen rather than a more scheduled approach, right? So yeah, it's applicable to a very kind of buildings, both commercial, public, as well as private infrastructure.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Love. Mr. Habib, tell us about the Saudi Arabian market. Which facilities particularly are fond of this technology in the Saudi market?
Well, in Saudi Arabia, knowing the landscape, you know, we have most large projects. For sure, the first priority or the first top on the list is airports that we have. As Kingdom, we've got 26 terminals in 26 different locations and cities, in which around 10 are big terminals, Jeddah, Medina, Riyadh, and all those cities. So these are like volume footfall locations, which easily you've got 10 mega projects as aviation or airport sector, where you have a good opportunity to invest in technology as one stand-alone project where you have volume people, good output, and the services. Same, there are some now financial districts are coming. There are large retail malls and properties coming. So Kingdom also have almost 40 plus large shopping malls managed by or constructed by 2 to 3 big large groups. So there are, I mean, 3 to 4 sectors in where we have large projects in Saudi Arabia, which are all 30 plus in 10 to 15 major cities. So large projects in Saudi Arabia is aviation, retail, some are residential compounds, then some of the financial districts. So these are the main areas in where Saudi Arabia has the opportunity. Now, plus some parks are coming, some entertainment projects are coming. So these all will have good involvement of soft services, cleaning, technology, and deliveries.
Certainly. We have an audience question that has come up. Perhaps Julian and Mr. Bhimrao, you can collectively take it. This is pertaining more to healthcare. So Jeans Joseph asks, how can we implement IoT for healthcare and how can it improve facilities?
Can I take it?
Yeah, sure.
In healthcare sector where everyone is going for touchless services, in that manner, it will definitely play a bigger role. IoT will play a bigger role because we're talking about a dispenser which reminds you that you need to sanitize your hand, you need to wash your hand. Even we're talking about technologies where you can say you'll get the reminder or alerts where your dustbins are overflow. Even your temperatures are getting monitored the moment you walk into the hospitals or clinics. So these are the benefits that I have seen. There are many more can be added. Maybe Julian can add more.
Not much.
I can add one more thing. Okay, go ahead.
Please, no, go ahead.
Okay, actually, we just last week we were watching. Seeing new products coming for this virus. Omicron or COVID, the new technology is coming out to neutralize the virus. Because a virus it's negative, and then there's now a new IoT technology is coming. Yes, we put it in an open space and then it can neutralize. So this will be a benefit, which is if proven, then we'll be sanitizing electronically or maybe by technology, by data. I guess we see the area based on the area, and then we can sanitize by neutralizing the air,
bacteria,
and then we can get rid of the virus. So this new technology is coming, and we are looking into this. So this is one of the things for health as a new gizmo coming. What all this pandemic is coming. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Mr. Salim. Julian, would you continue?
Yeah, I think just to add to all of this, I think we all became much more conscious about hygiene, and especially obviously we have seen so much changes in the medical facilities where there were times where nobody else than the patients was allowed. But I think this experience, and especially with IoT, as Bhimrao said, everything becomes touchless, right? Itself for the facilities, I think what is also important is that cleaning activities can be proven now. For example, through checking in and checking out through a sensor. It is not anymore necessarily a traditional checklist, with a signature and all. And I think these are really things which builds confidence, especially also in the healthcare sector. Has this really been disinfected properly and all? And obviously the technologies mentioned by Salim, Bhimrao, so add to this.
Thank you, Julian. We have another question from the audience. This one is from Mr. Sumit Rawat. Sumit asks, how can we monitor the process? If the technology fails during IoT implementation, then how does it work to improve? Mr. Habib, would you take this question?
Yes. Now, on technology, of course, it's backed by, now we apply two approaches here. We have in-house support and functions of application also, where we assign the team and the task from the application. What are the schedules of the projects today, which are commercial, individual also, plus a large project. Similar, at the same time, on the location side, we also have the data of the information of the services, schedules, manpower, material, and equipment. So it has a backup and a duplication, kind of like in-house arrangement functioning, and then on-site functioning. So if it fails on on-site functioning, at least you have the schedule from your system going that this was the schedule today. If it was executed on the site and it's not covered or reported or down for some reason, at least you have the schedule that you release the team and mobilize the equipment, material, and team, so you can at least cover the KPI or the reporting information that this was the team assigned today for the task. And then we can come up with the backup plan of the site issues.
Thank you, Mr.
It has to have always, it has to have duplication of information. We cannot keep it stand alone only at the site.
Of course. Love, would you like to add to this? What happens in case of technology failures? Like, how do facilities manage it then?
Sure. So, I mean, expanding on the point that was mentioned by Mr. Habib, in most of the technologies, especially in the projects which have completely transitioned from, let's say, schedule based to a on-demand base, such SLAs become of the utmost importance, right? Because if the technology fails, the alerts are not going to the cleaning team, so no cleaning is happening per se, right? Or let's say appropriate cleaning is not happening, and that will directly impact the user experience. So in technology, for example, ours, what we have done is there is an active health monitoring system of the technology itself, such that if the sensors don't ping, or let's say if there is anything down, it will automatically trigger an alert to the maintenance team. Right. So in most of our projects, for example, we try to maintain a SLA of under 4 hours, so that if anything is offline, then it could be quickly made online. And again, I mean, other than that, backup of the schedule way of doing things is always there.
Thank you so much, Love. Now, my next question is, let's consider a facility which does not use IoT at all. So how do we implement this technology in a facility? It could be any facility with high footfall. How do we implement it from scratch? Love, could you take this first?
Sure. So in terms of the IoT sensors, which are pretty much plug and play, right? So in fact, the sensors could be deployed in any brownfield or greenfield project. I mean, as in existing buildings or upcoming buildings. So first layer is the sensor layer, right? Whereby the sensors are installed on the site, which could be on specific locations, or let's say the false ceiling, etc. And from there, second layer comes the data layer, the network layer, as in how are these sensors pinging the data, right? Where are they connected to? How are they pushing the data? So from there, again, I mean, in some cases, the properties or the FM teams are able to arrange the connectivity to the on-premise Wi-Fi or enterprise Wi-Fi, or it could be certain other IoT protocols, or let's say the local networks, etc. as well. Once the data has reached the cloud, then all the applications nowadays are mostly cloud-based, as well as accessible through web dashboards or mobile apps, etc. So it becomes pretty much plug and play there. Yep.
Thank you, Love. Mr. Salim, now coming to you, I wanted to understand, since how long have you been using the IoT technology in Oman airports, and like how did you implement it?
Actually, the IoT technology started before the pandemic. And it was driven by quality, because we want to enhance the quality, and also cost. And then, because and to manage the big crowd. But the pandemic made it faster. So we moved into areas like, as I just mentioned, by smart cleaning in the toilets and the prayer areas and whatever. And also we have used even for something, even maybe image. I don't know if you come to the airport, one airport, you smell something called incense, called luban. This also we want to give the ambient, the special ambient for the Oman airports. So when you come there, you smell something luban from the south of Oman. So that's one also. It's not a cleaning, but actually it's an image building for the airport. So we started before the pandemic, and we continue to do it, and there will be even more, because now we're moving to areas like hygiene, then cleaning, and then even ground handling, and for checking. So we're moving now into all areas. We're trying to automate whatever we can do. So that's we are already there. We are there, as you can know, because we are new airports. So we are moving now with the technology. It's easier for us because the infrastructure is new, so we can adopt all this new technology.
Certainly, I completely agree with the fact that, the pandemic has accelerated the use of these modern technologies. Now, Mr. Habib, would you share your insights about how a facility which does not use IoT at all, why should it use IoT and how it can implement IoT from scratch in terms of cleaning?
See, now there are some large retail or volume location projects or the clients like which, of course, when they do the investment of the technology, it doesn't make math for them to invest in all small locations. And then if they are with 20, 30 volume locations in one of the city or country, then it's difficult for them to have this cost on a standalone single point location. So we come up, we educate them, we explain them, and we have successfully delivered in many of the projects where we do the reporting, the scheduling, and that's where again the application plays the role. Our in-house training centers and mobile team training centers and their mobilization plays the role there, where we deliver all the technology engagement in our operation, as well as some of the role with application we play on a geofencing, where we at least advise or update the client like these locations were done. Of course, SLS KPIs are there. So they don't really have to invest in property, in investing the technology tools and equipments there, but at least they have the reporting from automated platform.
Thank you so much, Mr. Habib, for sharing. Julian, would you like to add to this point?
I think, yeah, for the implementation, whilst we have talked a lot about, the sensors and all that, and Habib touched it also, I think training and the understanding of the people and the organization is very important. It's a change of how we used to do things. There's a lot of data coming along our way, and the question is also, do we need all this data? Some might not be at this point of time necessary or partially overwhelming. And I think arranging, as an organization, arranging this, measuring really the data which actually, can be analyzed and can be then optimized based on is crucial, and that people change a bit the way they work. Yeah? I mean, if we go down to a cleaner, now being able to prioritize if 2 or 3 notifications coming in, this sensor is empty, there's a complaint from a customer, how does he or she manage that? And I think this is the adaptation of processes and how do we manage them. But I think we're all on a good way in this regard, and working a lot with training, and more solutions are being provided.
Julian, another important question that I would like to ask you is that what are the advantage and challenges associated with implementing IoT? I know there are, whatever technology we implement, be it robotics, cobotics, UVC, every technology comes with its own set of challenges. So what are the challenges associated with Internet of Things, and how do we overcome them?
I think what we do in farming, obviously, we develop a lot in-house, and we are really trying to test ourselves and our processes and projects with new innovative approaches. So for us, it's very important to do our own POCs. We are trying to really prove these concepts, and whilst this maybe sounds so easy, or we'll have a smart washroom and tomorrow everything will be efficient, as I mentioned, there is a big data set, and then to organize the operation that it actually benefits out of it is, I think, the trick. As advantages, advantages are pretty simple. Obviously, one thing is to achieve cost savings, and it is possible. Definitely saving the walkways of the cleaners. I mentioned remote supervision and all that, and it just needs a bit more adaptation, or like also openness from both sides, the service provider as well as the client. The resource allocation is much more efficient, or can be managed much more efficient. And as I mentioned before, I think also we have now an evident proof that, for example, that a person has done something or is there. Disadvantages, I would say, currently in the Middle East, it's not a disadvantage, but maybe whilst it is a very enthusiastic environment here, I believe, and very innovative, at least how we experience it in the UAE, the drive towards technology. Obviously, a lower manpower cost still makes it sometimes a bit commercially less attractive. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's still a cost-saving benefit over the long time, but I think it is not so huge at this point of time. Sensors are becoming cheaper, and much more sensor manufacturers are coming along the way. But yeah, so I think that this would be for me the only disadvantage at this point of time.
Thank you for sharing, Julian. Mr. Bhimrao, now you have recently implemented IoT in your facility. So I would like to ask, what are some of the challenges that you faced while implementing the technology, be it internally or externally, and how did you overcome them?
Within our premises, we didn't face any challenges. It's easy to integrate it with, it's an internet-based technology. It's very easy to integrate it, right? So in my knowledge, there's no challenges. But the only one thing that you need to be, it needs to be monitored regularly. That is the only thing that we need to focus more. Because it's a technology, it's internet, it can break down. And what Mr. Habib says, you need to have backup. So that is something that we are constantly monitoring. And the advantage that what Julian had mentioned, I just wanted to add on a few things in that. Well, this technology comes with multiple advantages. The one thing that which triggered my mind is you get real-time data for everything. That is the biggest advantage. With that data, you can plan your expansion of your business. If your footfall is less, you can relocate your business. There's a like advantage that which helps in real time. So
certainly it would help to make better cleaning decisions. Mr. Salim, now coming to you, we'd like to understand from your experience, what are some of the challenges that you faced while implementing this technology in an airport, and how did you overcome them?
Some of the challenges like testing. Many of the product now, they're taking opportunity for the pandemic and they want to give you a product without testing. So you ask them where this product is used, you don't get it. You'll be like a pioneer user. So we're taking risk and using we are the first user of any product. This one challenge. The other challenge is some of the sensor, because they are battery driven, maybe battery life sometimes they don't last. So it actually introduce some maintenance issue. Let's say the sensor, some of them, they don't come with, because they're not tested properly. So the battery life doesn't last some time. And also because now the demand is high, sometimes getting product connectivity, delivery of the product is not coming at the right time. Because now the demand is high because everyone is trying to utilize the new IoT technology. So that's this one issue. And sometimes also connecting with the cloud has become an issue, especially in some areas. So we not 100% we can connect with the cloud. And so this all, and handling data, because now also, because we are new in this technology, sometimes also, even though it's IoT, but we have to invest in supervisors to make sure that we don't have, make sure that it doesn't fail. So either you have backup plan, like a manual, or to have proper supervision, or to have proper maintenance. So all this you have to make sure is some of the challenges. To have IoT is good, but to make sure that it doesn't fail. And if it ensure it doesn't fail by proper supervision, proper maintenance, proper battery life. So all these challenges, it comes with the new products. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us, Mr. Salim. Mr. Habib, if you could take this question next. In your experience, what are some of the challenges that are associated with implementing IoT?
See, on implementing IoT, it's basically when you know the business, you have to know the property, the business, and the product that we are going to engage. So, as Julian also covered in one of the point, is the proof of concept. If we go on the proof of concept and we do the complete due diligence, see the past experience of the technology, where they have implemented and what were their feedback and the output of the implementation. So proof of concept is a lengthy process where you look at all the technology, the automation, and then the material, chemical, consumables, everything that you use. So proof of concept basically has to have enough time and experience to do the demos in-house or in some of the locations before you go live and introduce it as your capability, and then it's a part of your services delivery. So before becoming a services delivery maturity, we have to have the proof of concept, we have to have the due diligence, the past experience of the technology, what type of volume and large single projects they have done, and then how friendly user it is to the system that we have, that it can integrate or migrate the information, so we don't face duplication or multiple software and platforms to introduce a technology.
Thank you, Mr. Habib. Love, would you like to add to this?
Sure. I mean, most of the points are covered, but yeah, I mean, main two challenges that we see is, one is on the people side, right? That what we always say is that we are literally fighting against the status quo in that way. I mean, because everyone is so used to doing things the way they do, right? In the sense of schedule cleaning and all. So sometimes retraining becomes an essential part of that, in the sense that making sure that the operations team on the ground, cleaners, supervisors, they actually follow the system and understand the system. And this may take a little bit of time, right? So there is a transition period of around, let's say, 3 to 6 months being the sweet spot. Second point, which Mr. Habib also mentioned exactly, is the proof of concept validation. That in terms of the entire evaluation, what we see is also that because we are sitting on the other side of the table in that way, right? I mean, as a technology provider. So when we build, engage on a new site or a new project, there is always this whole phase or transition whereby we try to establish a before and after case, kind of, right? And how things were done before, a whole case study on that. And then the after, as in how much productivity improved, how much savings happened, or let's say whole business case, as in how things improved overall. So that POC becomes kind of the essential factor of convincing the whole team, as in why this should be adopted and why this should become a core part of the operations.
Thank you, Love. Mr. Bhimrao, I think you wanted to add something here.
Already covered.
All right, thank you. So Love, could you take a next question as well? The next question is, how do IoT solutions drive savings? And, we have this preconceived notions that modern technologies are very expensive. So what is the initial cost of implementation like, and how does it compare with future savings?
Sure. Again, I mean, in terms of the technology costs, nowadays technologies like ours is available on both of a CapEx model as well as IoT as a service model, right? So instead of buying the equipment, which again has a net positive ROI in under 24-month cycle, there is a second option of going off IoT as a service, right? Whereby you don't have to pay a single dollar upfront, but rather you budget it against, let's say, the manpower saving that's happening, and that becomes like a positive business case. Again, in terms of deployment, it could start with a small scale, as in, first of all, validating the solution through a POC. Is the solution blending in with the operation? How are the ground teams picking it up? And from there, scale up proportionately, as in, it need not be, for example, even smart washroom, right? It need not be deployed across the building or across an entire hospital or airport, but rather, let's say, areas which make sense, right? So it like heavily used washrooms, more problematic washroom, or a combination of sensors which make sense on a economic viability, if let's say the deployment makes sense.
Thank you, love. Mr. Habib, how economically viable is IoT, in your opinion?
See, IoT, of course, replaces or improves the heavy cost of manpower that used to be in past, right? So it was always driven with how many people required, and then the material consumables were later on discussed. But now it is driven by the technology. So it's everything first is what are the premises, what are the locations, what are the schedules, and what are seasonal schedules. So we can now even go through an annual calendar where we see the rise and fall of the footfall of the requirements. And then we come now to the manpower, that how many manpower headcount are required. So the technology replaces the input approach completely to output approach, which I think now the market, the client, it's quite awareness is there. It has improved a lot. So we don't get into deploying people, we get into delivering services, deploy the technology, and then the ROI, of course, comes on a schedule, on couple of months, years, and all. It's not immediately that first month or first year. So ROI timeline is different, but the improvement in services, in quality, cost, of course, when you break down the premises in different type of areas which are soft and high rise or carpet or stainless glass floor, so every cost is known, then you supply the right material as well. So that only can happen through a technology, otherwise it's a list. So technology has improved the right manpower need. Technology has improved the right consumable chemicals and equipments need, which eventually or ultimately gives us the savings.
Thank you so much, Mr. Habib. Mr. Salim, tell us about your experience in this now that you have implemented IoT. What impact have you seen on the costs?
Actually, despite maybe investing at the beginning and like sensors and slightly higher at the beginning, but in the long run, it will even and actually it's going to be more effective. The service is going to be effective and it's going to be more efficient. These two words will cover everything from numbers of people will be using, area to be covered, material to be used. So all these things are going to be better. And the ROI in the long run, it's going to be positive. So this definitely will improve because of using data, using technology, and it's not going to be random. We're not going to be a wish. I mean, a passenger tell me or employee tell me will be driven by schedule, proper scheduling, proper data, so everything will be monitored and it be used. So it will be systematic and systematic approach, data driven, and this is actually the best approach we're going to be in the future. And more to come. I'm sure we'll be using everything by using robotic, using sensor, and using IoT in general. Become yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salim. Mr. Bhimrao, tell us about your experience. You have also implemented IoT very recently, and we would like to know the cost impact that you've seen in Aster.
Well, what Mr. Salim and Habib mentioned, that it's absolutely true. It helps in many ways. The technology comes with the initial cost, but it gives you return also for a long term. So in our premises, the technology which has been implemented, we are expecting like 4 years, minimum 3 to 4 years ROI, which has a long running benefits. So for us, it was like not that difficult to take the call on it, and Farnik team was very helpful in that manner. So maybe Julian can add on some more into this.
Thank you, Bimrao, for the feedback. Yeah, I think from cost savings, obviously the manpower cost can even be offset even within a year. Once the proof of concept is there, we have seen this in project. we are actually in the cleaning industry can really reduce the manpower quite quickly, and this is an immediate saving. With Asta also on the whole, footfall management and sensor income assets, obviously energy savings are there, and an understanding of how the different branches operate. So I think, again, from scheduling even the end user or the customer's operation, which is not a cleaning related business, there's a lot of other information which can lead to efficiencies across the business. Yeah. And as mentioned before, I think the whole management function has to be revisited and relooked at this in terms of how often do we need to audit. I think now we're having an online panel discussion. It shows already, right, that everything becomes more touchless, more mobile and all that. Versus I hope, Salim, we all travel much more soon again, obviously. But yeah, I think this is a part of it that, again, auditing and control over the individual location can be done remotely.
Thank you, Julian. My next question is, what kind of staff training especially to the cleaning staff is needed to implement an IoT solution? Julian, perhaps you can take this first.
So we start already actually from the selection. We're trying to understand from the interview phase if staff is open to technology. The positive part of this, almost everybody has a smartphone these days. So it is not something where too much, understanding or training is required, how to use a smartphone, how to use an app. Then I think the other thing is really on the specific processes. With more data, I think what we learned is that our staff is required to understand the contraction KPIs and SLAs more. Whilst maybe a cleaner before was not so focused on this, now suddenly he's faced with notifications. He has to react and prioritize, as I mentioned before. And this is definitely something a bit new. And with that comes multitasking skills. It is not now I scrub the floor, I mop that. I need to be able to maintain and room and facility and a specific space and with several tasks at the same time. And these prioritizations and multitasking, I think, is what we looked at on the entire focus of training, which changed a bit the way we approach our training. It is not a stubborn single way process checklist. You do this and you do that, right? Because things change.
Certainly. Thank you, Julian. Would anybody else like to add to this point? Like, what kind of staff training have you seen being required to implement an IoT solution, especially in terms of the cleaning staff?
Actually, maybe I can add this. The training part, it's actually many levels, and the people who the doer will be maybe less training but because they'll be doing the job. But for supervisor, for example, they need to have more extensive training into knowing beyond what they see. Sometimes so the training will vary from what the function of each person, from a supervisor to the manager. I mean, when we come to the manager, it will be a strategic, and then you have to build on the needs required for the organization. Supervisor has to be do day to day and then expand, and has to be a refresher because technology. It's I have a PC, I can use 10% of it, but the power is maybe 100%. So that's why the more knowledge, more training, always going to be advantageous for the person himself as a reward and motivation, and for the organization, they get the ROI from the service which they paid for. So this actually training will never be enough. Always has to be continuous.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mr. Salim. Would anybody else like to add to this point of training?
Yeah.
From my side, sorry.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So this is training. Training is a process that it's a repeating process. So at one stage, yes, we do the pre-mobilization training, then we do the mobilization. Then it's on-site training is something that you do on-site training of the staff, especially when it's the schedules are there. So the supervision team, they know that what are the schedules of the the KPIs, how the monitoring is happening. So they open, close, execute the schedule and ticket closing on time. The other one is refresh training, which we keep doing in a quarterly or biannually basis, which again is in-house and on-site training. So it's a process that we cover at least 4 to 5 schedules. We must cover on annual basis to have on-site training, refresh trainings, and the system training for the supervision team. That's all from my side.
Mr. Bhimrao, you were saying something.
See, the product knowledge is very, very important because it's internet-based technology. The people should know how it works and what is the impact on the customer satisfaction. And how we can enhance by using this technology, how we can enhance the customer satisfaction. So our trainings should be based on technology as well as considering customer aspects in the mind. That should be our focus. That is what I feel like can be combined.
Thank you so much. My final question to the panel is, how is IoT changing the future of the cleaning industry? Would anybody like to take this question first?
Well, I'll just initiate maybe a little bit. Like, definitely it will add advantage in many ways because for the biggest advantage that I have seen in this technology, you get real-time data for everything. And it can be integrated with any devices, any objects that we use on daily basis. You get to know everything in one click, right? One alert can alert you with if you're running short of your liquid soap, so you get alert. If your dustbins are filled, you get alert. If someone walks into the premises with heavy body temperature, you get alert. So it has many advantages of implementation of this technology, and in many in coming years where everyone is moving towards touchless services, IoT will play a bigger role in commercial cleaning, because I can see there are robotic cleaners will be taking places in premises, the big malls and airports, even the hospitals can be covered with that. So definitely IoT will play a bigger role in future commercial cleaning.
Definitely, I completely agree with you. Would anybody like to take, anybody else would like to take this question? Like, how is IoT going to change the future of the cleaning industry?
Maybe I can add slightly. I mean, I am into automation in general, but as an airport, customer service, human touch is a must. It's you have to have. You cannot rely 110% on an IoT. People though are expecting more from IoT, but but you cannot forget the human touch. You have to have some certain element into the human, into any automation. So you can save money, you can do better service, you can do data driven, but don't forget that the 5% or 10% of human touch to make the service more human, more touchy, to make it like better. So this is my advice for anyone who's using IoT. It's good, but be careful not to overuse it, because the overuse it sometimes it becomes negative. That's also my advantage, my opinion about it. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salim. That was indeed words of wisdom. Mr. Habib, would you like to take this question?
Yes, now IoT, of course, it will, especially now after pandemic, it has taken more place in our daily lives, in projects, and all client would like to have those kind of initiatives, and it is making the ease in the business to introduce and implement. But as Mr. Salem also covered, it's a human leadership initiative that we introduce until a certain level, where you are delivering and happy of your quality services, but you are not risking the human element to always oversee, review, and improve the technology, and do the right configuration, which is the right need of the projects. Because sometimes if you deploy a full package and the project landscape is changing, then you are wasting your money in that investment also. So human error and human engagement and leadership also is important there, how to drive the technology.
Thank you, Mr. Habib. Love, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, sure. So in fact, I mean, what we are seeing, given that some cleaning ecosystems are a little ahead of the other, things have already started transitioning in some ecosystems from the tech adoption phase to being tech driven. In fact, when we're working with some of the leading property groups or IFM companies, etc., the whole, first of all, the data didn't even used to be there, right? In the absence of IoT or such digital systems. So this data is also helping them structure better in a better way that how, let's say, procurement should happen, how data-driven audit, or let's say the entire cleaning processes should be digitized. So it is the future of cleanings. Yeah, I mean, it's moving from tech adoption to being tech-driven, and later on, let's say, more integration of autonomous systems, etc. as well. Yep.
Thank you. Julian, final words from you on this?
Yeah, I think maybe just to add, I think cleaning might become a bit less obvious in a sense, since the tendency through IoT comes at some point that we will be able to predict almost, where to be at the right time, that, the cleaners will not be as visible anymore. On-demand cleaning, predictive cleaning, we mentioned it, and I think smart workforce, this is a topic for us very important, right? Enabling the stuff on the ground, and similar like Celine said, I think the human touch is important. However, for us is that the technology enables actually the team members and does not make their life in any way more complicated. And I think this is for us very critical also, that it supports their function. It should be able to make their job easier and improve in the end the result. Yeah.
It looks like we have covered all of our questions. Thank you so much for joining us today, Julian, Love, Bhimrao, Salim, Mr. Habib, everyone. To all our listeners, we'll meet you in a few minutes for an interesting presentation with Mr. Issam Horene, CEO of Hygiene Tech. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Samia, for allowing us this platform.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
my
you for
pleasure
having
to
us.
host all of
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.